Chapter 13, The Weekly Test. At 2 o'clock sharp, the class assembled, including Miss Honey, who noted that the jug of water and the glass were in the proper place. Then she took up a position standing right at the back. Everyone waited. Suddenly, in marched the gigantic figure of the headmistress in her belted smock and green breeches. "Good afternoon, children," she barked. "Good afternoon, Miss Trunchbull," they chirruped. The headmistress stood before the class, legs apart, hands on hips, glaring at the small boys and girls who sat nervously at their desks in front of her. "Not a pretty sight," she said. Her expression was one of utter distaste, as though she were looking at something a dog had done in the middle of the floor. "What a bunch of nauseating little warts you are." Everyone had the sense to stay silent. "It makes me vomit," she went on. "To think that I'm going to have to put up with a load of garbage like you in my school for the next 6 years. I can see that I'm going to have to expel as many of you as possible as soon as possible to save myself from going round the bend." She paused and snorted several times. It was a curious noise. You could hear the same sort of thing if you walked through a riding stable when the horses are being fed. "I suppose," she went on, "your mothers and fathers tell you you are wonderful. Well, I'm here to tell you the opposite. You better believe me. Stand up, everybody." They all got quickly to their feet. "Now put your hands out in front of you, and as I walk past, I want you to turn them over so I can see if they are clean on both sides." The Trunchbull began a slow march along the rows of desks, inspecting the hands. All went well until she came to a small boy in the second row. "What's your name?" she barked. "Nigel," the boy said. "Nigel what?" "Nigel Hicks," the boy said. "Nigel Hicks what?" the Trunchbull bellowed. She bellowed so loud that she nearly blew the little chap out of the window. "That's it," Nigel said, "unless you want my middle name as well." He was a brave little fellow, and no one could see that he was trying not to be scared by the Gordon who towered above him. "I do not want your middle name, you blister," the Gorgon bellowed. "What is my name?" "Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "Then use it when you address me. Now then, let's try it again. What's your name?" "Nigel Hicks, Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "That's better," the Trunchbull said. "Your hands are filthy, Nigel. When did you last wash them?" "Well, let me think," Nigel said. "That's rather difficult to remember exactly. It could have been yesterday or it could have been the day before." The Trunchbull's whole body and face seemed to swell up as though she was being inflated by a bicycle pump. "I knew it," she bellowed. "I knew as soon as I saw you that you were nothing but a piece of filth. What is your father's job, a sewage worker?" "He's a doctor," Nigel said, "and a jolly good one. He says we're all so covered with bugs anyway that a bit of extra dirt never hurts anyone." "I'm glad he's not my doctor," the Trunchbull said. "And why, might I ask, is there baked beans on the front of your shirt?" "We had them for lunch, Miss Trunchbull." "And do you usually put your lunch on front of your shirt, Nigel? Is that what this famous doctor father of yours has taught you to do?" "Baked beans are hard to eat, Miss Trunchbull. They keep falling off my fork." "You are disgusting," the Trunchbull bellowed. "You are a walking germ factory. I don't wish to see any more of you today. Go and stand in the corner on one leg with your face to the wall." "But, Miss Trunchbull—" "Don't argue with me, boy, or I'll make you stand on your head. Now do as you're told." Nigel went. "Now stay where you are, boy, while I test you on your spelling to see if you've learnt anything at all this past week. Don't turn round when you talk to me. Keep your nasty little face to the wall. Now then, spell right." "Which one?" Nigel asked. "The thing you do with a pen or the one that means the opposite of wrong?" He happened to be an unusually bright child, and his mother had worked hard with him on spelling and reading at home. "The one with the pen in your hand, you little fool." Nigel spelled it correctly, which surprised the Trunchbull. She thought she had given him a very tricky word, one that he wouldn't yet have learned, and she was peeved that he had succeeded. Then Nigel said, still balancing on one leg and facing the wall, "Miss Honey taught us how to spell a new very long word yesterday." "And what word was that?" the Trunchbull asked softly. The softer her voice became, the greater the danger, but Nigel wasn't to know this. "Difficulty," Nigel said. "Everyone in class can spell difficulty now." "What nonsense," the Trunchbull said. "You are not supposed to learn long words like that until you are at least 8 or 9. Don't try to tell me everybody in the class can spell that word. You are lying, Nigel." "Test someone," Nigel said, taking an awful chance. "Test anyone you like." The Trunchbull's dangerous, glittering eyes roved around the classroom. You she said, pointing at a tiny and rather daft little girl called Prudence. "Spell difficulty." Amazingly, Prudence spelled it correctly and without a moment's hesitation. The Trunchbull was properly taken aback. She snorted. "And I suppose Miss Honey wasted the whole of one lesson teaching you how to spell that one single word." "Oh, no, she didn't," piped up a student. "Miss Honey taught us to do it in 3 minutes, so we'll never forget it. And she teaches us lots of words in 3 minutes." "What exactly is this magic method, Miss Honey?" asked the headmistress. "I'll show you," piped up the brave Nigel again, coming to Miss Honey's rescue. "Can I put my other foot down and turn round, please, while I show you?" "You may do neither," snapped Trunchbull. "Stay as you are and show me just the same." "All right," said Nigel, wobbling crazily on his one leg. "Miss Honey gave us a little song about each word, and we all sing it together, and we learned to spell it in no time. Would you like to hear the song about difficulty?" "I should be fascinated," the Trunchbull said in a voice dripping with sarcasm. "Here it is," Nigel said. "Mrs. D, Mrs. I, Mrs. F, F-I, Mrs. C, Mrs. U, Mrs. L, T-Y. That spells difficulty." "How perfectly ridiculous," snorted the Trunchbull. "Why are all these women married? And anyway, you're not meant to teach poetry when you're teaching spelling. Cut it out in the future, Miss Honey." "But it does teach them some of the harder words wonderfully well," Miss Honey murmured. "Don't argue with me, Miss Honey," the headmistress thundered. "Just do as you're told. I shall now test the class on multiplication tables to see if Miss Honey has taught you anything at all in that direction." The Trunchbull had returned to her place in front of the class, and her diabolical gaze was moving slowly along the rows of tiny pupils. "You," she barked, pointing at a small boy called Rupert in the front row. "What is 2 sevens?" 16, Rupert answered with foolish abandon. The Trunchbull started, advancing slow and soft-footed upon Rupert, in the manner of tigress stalking a small deer. Rupert suddenly began aware of the danger signals and quickly tried again. "It's 18, he cried. 2 sevens are 18, not 16. "You ignorant little slug," the Trunchbull bellowed. "You witless weed, you empty-headed hamster, you stupid glob of glue." She had now stationed herself directly behind Rupert, and suddenly she extended a hand the size of a tennis racket and grabbed all the hair on Rupert's head in her fist. Rupert had a lot of golden-colored hair. His mother thought it was beautiful to behold and took a delight in allowing it to grow extra long. The Trunchbull had a great dislike for long hair on boys, as she had for plaits and pigtails on girls, and she was about to show it. She took a firm grip on Rupert's long golden tresses with her giant hand, and then, by raising her muscular right arm, she lifted the helpless boy out of his chair and held him aloft. Rupert yelled. He twisted and squirmed and kicked the air and went on yelling like a stuck pig, and Miss Trunchbull bellowed, 2 sevens are 14. 2 sevens are 14. I'm not letting you go till you say it." From the back of the class, Miss Honey cried out, "Miss Trunchbull, please let him down. You're hurting him. All his hair might come out." "And well it might if he doesn't stop wriggling," snorted the Trunchbull. "Keep still, you squirming worm." It was really quite extraordinary sight to see this giant headmistress dangling the small boy high in the air, and the boy spinning and twisting like something on the end of a string and shrieking his head off. "Say it," bellowed the Trunchbull. "Say 2 sevens are 14. Hurry up, or I'll start jerking you up and down, and your hair will really come out, and we'll have enough to stuff a sofa. Get on with it, boy. Say 2 sevens are 14, and I'll let you go." 2 sevens are 14, gasped Rupert, whereupon the Trunchbull, true to her word, opened her hand and quite literally let him go. He was a long way off the ground when she released him, and he plummeted to earth and hit the floor and bounced like a football. "Get up and stop whimpering," the Trunchbull barked. Rupert got up and went back to his desk, massaging his scalp with both hands. The Trunchbull returned to the front of the class. The children sat there hypnotized. None of them had seen anything quite like this before. It was splendid entertainment. It was better than pantomime, but with one big difference. In this room, there was an enormous human bomb in front of them, which was liable to explode and blow someone to bits any moment. The children's eyes were riveted on the headmistress. "I don't like small people," she was saying. "Small people should never be seen by anybody." They should be kept out of sight in boxes like hairpins and buttons. I cannot for the life of me see why children have to take so long to grow up. I think they do it on purpose." Another extremely brave little boy in front row spoke up and said, "But truly, you were a small person once, Miss Trunchbull, weren't you?" "I was never a small person," she snapped. "I've been large all my life, and I don't see why others can't be the same way." "But you must have started off as a baby," the boy said. "Me? A baby?" shouted the Trunchbull. "How dare you suggest such a thing? What cheek? What internal insolence? What's your name, boy? And stand up when you speak to me." The boy stood up. "My name is Eric Ink, Miss Trunchbull," he said. "Eric what?" the Trunchbull shouted. "Ink," the boy said. "Don't be serious, boy. There's no such name." "Look in the phone book," Eric said. "You'll see my father's there under Ink." "Very well, then," the Trunchbull said. "You may be Ink, young man, but let me tell you something. You're not smart. I'll very soon rub you out if you try getting clever with me. Spell what?" "I don't understand," Eric said. "What do you want me to spell?" "Spell it. Spell what?" "W-O-T," Eric said, answering too quickly. There was a nasty silence. "I'll give you one more chance," the Trunchbull said, not moving. "Oh, yes, I know," Eric said. "It's got an H in it. W-H-O-T. It's easy." In 2 large strides, the Trunchbull was behind Eric's desk, and there she stood, a pillar of doom towering over the helpless boy. Eric glanced fearfully back over his shoulder at the monster. "I was right, wasn't I?" he murmured nervously. "You were wrong," the Trunchbull barked. "In fact, you strike me as a sort of poisonous little pockmark that will always be wrong. You sit wrong, you look wrong, you speak wrong, you are wrong all round. I will give you one more chance to be right. Spell what?" Eric hesitated, then he said very slowly, "It's not W-O-T and it's not W-H-O-T. I know, it must be W-H-O-T-T. Standing behind Eric, the Trunchbull reached out and took hold of the boy's 2 ears, one with each hand, pinching them between forefinger and thumb. "Ow!" Eric cried. "Ow, you're hurting me." "Haven't started yet," the Trunchbull said briskly, and now, taking a firm grip on his 2 ears, she lifted him bodily out of his seat and held him aloft. Like Rupert before him, Eric squealed the house down. From the back of the room, Miss Honey cried out, "Miss Trunchbull, don't. Please let him go. His ears might come off." "They'll never come off," the Trunchbull shouted back. "I have discovered, through long experience, Miss Honey, and the ears of small boys are stuck very firmly on their heads." "Let him go, Miss Trunchbull, please," begged Miss Honey. "You could damage him. You really could. You could wrench them right off." "Ears never come off," the Trunchbull shouted. "They stretch most marvelously, like these are doing now. But I can assure you they will never come off." Eric was squealing louder than ever and pedaling the air with his legs. Matilda had never before seen a boy, or anyone else for that matter, held aloft by their ears alone. Like Miss Honey, she felt sure both ears were going to come off at any moment with all the weight that was on them.